Good in the back? Awesome. What I heard from Cameron is you guys want no more AI. So I might need to pivot our training for the next 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. I think the reality is we have talked about AI quite a bit. But I think it's with intention. Ultimately, the key of your business should be to fund your lifestyle, should be to fund the things that are important in your life. And part of that equation is that we realize that time is the most valuable asset that you have, right? Far more valuable than money. And leverage is really what we teach, right? If you go back to the MREA before AI was out, the MREA talks about how leverage is such a key asset in business, which is a way to get more results with less effort. And so today I want to kind of walk through a few different strategies that are new that you want to be aware of. Is it large training room?
Yeah, large.
Cool. To really elevate your client experience. And just a really quick raise of hand, who primarily uses ChatGPT as their core go-to? Okay. How many of you are Claude is your main focus? Okay, about 40%. What about Gemini? All right, a few of you. Notion AI, great. Well, we're going to speed through this and feel free to ask questions. So if you have something that pops into mind, raise your hand. We're going to go through how to elevate the client experience. And there's really two sides of this. One, I want you to be able to get more business in Q3 and Q4 than you did the first half of the year. And the way to do that is some very simple principles that you want to lean into. And this is what I'll call the simple path to growing your business. And there's these 4 plays that you really want to lean into more, which is number one is you want to add more value. There's a Tony Robbins quote that the key to living is like, how can you focus on just giving more value to your clients, to the people who are buying, who are selling, who are homeowners, who are staying in their home? How do you add more value to them than anybody else in our space? And that is the easiest way for you to get the inbound calls of them calling you, in October and saying, hey, we're looking at listing our home. We'd like your help, right? Rather than having to feel like you're forcing business into your pipeline, you are attracting it by providing more value. Number 2 is earning the right to be in business with clients. And this is something I think is just a good business principle, which is like never expect. How many of you have had a family member or friend use a different agent other than you? Right? How does that feel?
All memes that tell them congrats and go buy a new car to celebrate.
Yeah, right before closing. Hey, you should buy us a new vehicle. What do you actually learn from that experience? What lessons have you learned when you see somebody close to you who buys with a different agent? Jared.
Kind of internalizing. I didn't do it now. I heard their guilt to their house. So then I think, well, what can I do?
Yeah. We were talking about this in our huddle, our leadership huddle yesterday. There's this saying that men are not creatures of circumstances. Circumstances are the creatures of men, right? Meaning that we're the ones that actually create situations. And so oftentimes that's a good indicator of like, well, I wasn't close enough emotionally in proximity to them to where they felt that I was the best to actually serve them in that moment, right? So we should never expect just because we're related to somebody or just because we have a good relationship that that's enough for us to be able to earn their business, right? So we really have to earn the right to be in business with them by them actually feeling that we're the best fiduciary to help them with the process. And so that's where a lot of what we're going to talk about today is creating lead magnets or assets that actually showcase to clients over time that you are the best go-to option. Number 3 is systems create the experience. How many of you read Atomic Habits? Okay, so in that book, one of the things that is a focus point is that your systems are one of the keys to scaling, right? Or to doing anything that matters over time is that you have to have a system for it. You cannot rely on just your willpower because some days you wake up and you don't want to do things, right? And so we have to have a system that causes a result to happen. And then number 4 is to play the long game. So we just have to stay consistent over time. So that statement by Tony is the secret to living is giving, and that's going to be the foundation of what we talk about today. Another statement by Zig Ziglar, he says that you can have everything in life that you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. So this is really what I want to just plant the seed on. Asking the question of how can I help more people in Q3 and Q4 get what they want? Meaning that there are people in your sphere of influence, true or true with this question, there are people in your sphere of influence who are going to make a move in the next 12 months for whatever reason's happening in their life, right? Absolutely. So the question is, how do you become aware of who they are? And then how do you actually solve a problem that they likely have in that process? So we're going to jump to this first piece, which is my recommendation is raise your hand if you have a 36 touch installed in your business, meaning that you're engaging with your clients and you're aiming for roughly 36 touch points per year with your database. Okay, like 6, 7 of you. Awesome. How many of you feel like one of the bottlenecks of your business is that you don't have a systematic approach at delivering value or staying in touch with your sphere of influence? Okay. So there's this, how many of you are familiar with this, the theory of constraints? Spencer, I'm going to pick on you for a second. Let's just say that you and I are going to go into business together. We're building a car manufacturing company. We're going to compete with Tesla, okay? And our goal is to create as many vehicles as we can each day, right? But the first day that we open that factory, we can build 1 car body frame each day. We can build 7 car engines, and then we can do 9 car steering wheels every day. How many cars can we actually put together? Just 1, right? Because what is the constraint? The car body frame. So it doesn't matter if we get to, let's maximize how many engines we can build. Let's get to a point where we can do 99 car engines in a day. But if the constraint is still the same, nothing changes. Does that make sense? So in our business, often the constraint is we're not providing enough systematic value to our sphere. That is typically the constraint to scale. Does that make sense? And so if you're focused on all these other things in your business right now, but you're not solving that one core constraint, because I did not see enough hands raising their hand and saying, I have a 36 touch system in my business. And where this system comes into play is if you've read the MREA, Gary Keller went and interviewed a ton of rock star agents that were making over $1 million a year in their business and documented their process. And what he found was most consistently, the 36 touches is not the exact number. Some people did less, but they're higher quality touch points. Some people did significantly more touches than that. But he said the average was about 36 touches. That's what he found was the secret ingredient to a successful $1 million business, was they had a system to delivering that many touches over time. Follow me so far? So the question is, how do we have AI help us to improve our value delivery system and create a lot of these assets that actually make it very easy to deliver value throughout the year to our clients? And let me actually pull up a little image that will be helpful. How many of you remember seeing this? We went through this, I think, in Business Planning Clinic last year, which is a very easy way to do this, is just have a Google Doc like this. And I will send this out with our slides. Ritz, if you can throw that out in our email recap for everybody today. This essentially just says, let's just plan out in advance. And even if you just do this for the quarter, like, hey, for third quarter, what are the touch points that I want to deliver in August, September, October? What are the 3 different touch points that I want to do for that month? When we pre-plan it, it's so much easier to get into momentum and action, right? When we say, these are the 3 things that I'm focused on. I'm focused on making, and sorry, this is actually the brokerage version. We have one that is an agent version. Sorry, I pulled up the wrong one. But essentially just saying, okay, well, what are the different touch points that I'm going to make to my sphere? There we go. So what's the touch points? If you have a market update email, how many of you have an email of value that goes out every single month? Okay, look around really quick. Raise your hand high. Like 30%, maybe 40%. That is the easiest one to do consistently because we have AI that can help put that together very, very quickly now. It might take you 10 to 15 minutes to put together a solid value email. And if you didn't know, we build your market update email already for you. If anything else, fall back to that one that we create for you every month, which Kimber puts together. But that should be one where you are able to systematize it really, really quick. Then you plan out your touch 2, touch 3. So this is one easy way to do it. There's a blank version down below, so you can either copy the one that we've already created or use this blank one down below and create your touch system. Now, as I was preparing for this, I want to just show you by practice. What I would recommend is that you likely already have a lot of assets in your pocket that can just simply be elevated by AI. So I gave that exact Google Doc that I just showed you to Claude. And I said, Claude, it is nice to be able to give agents a streamlined 36 touch plan that they can just go install in their business. But they're still missing steps. That's the idea. But how many of you look at that and say, that's great, but there's still a bunch of different things I have to do to get an email newsletter sent out every week, right? Or every month. Or there's still a lot I have to do to plan out what a client event would look like successfully, right? So all I did was give it that document. And I said, would you actually just build out a spreadsheet that helps somebody install these systems in their business? So go a step further and take that document. And this is what it spit out was this Google Doc. Okay. And essentially what it does, and we're going to give away very simply for everybody to have access to this later today. So if you say, I want to just focus on getting my market update email installed in my business, there's a checklist of how do I get it set up first? What tools do I need to use? But then every month, we should just have a recurring checklist. Here's the 7 things I need to do to ship my email newsletter every month. And for every one of these touch points, you'd have a simple checklist to follow. So that way, the first Monday of the month, you open your checklist and say, what are the 6 things or 7 things I need to do to get this system touch point done? Does that make sense? So too often we try to operate from our mind and not actually having a checklist to follow is one of the big problems. But I just want to show you this, where this was taken from a PDF and then Claude was able to create an asset of value. And I want you to do the same thing with your clients. A lot of you probably have something valuable in your Google Drive that can just be enhanced or changed into a newer asset that's super valuable for your database in your sphere, okay? An example of that. Let me go back here first. So with AI, you want to think about the different formats of deliverables or value that you should be giving out to clients. So having it create PDFs, calculators, mini apps. How many of you have built a mini app? Okay, so like 2 of you, 3 of you. Okay. It takes about 5 to 7 minutes. But to the client experience, it's a significant increase in value. And I'm going to show you 2 of those examples. So basically, you can have Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini build you in about 5 to 7 minutes an app that your clients can actually use. And that can be something that is part of your value touch plan. Also creating the seminar or webinar slides. If you're doing any kind of in-person events or webinar events, having it create that actual content and document process for you is something that I can help with.
App.
Yeah. Yep. So this is one where right now clients in their mind, what you want to do is answer the problem or solve the problem that they have or the question that they have in their mind. Let me say that again. We want to get very good at solving the questions that clients have in their mind or answering those questions, right? So how many of you think that there might be clients who are like, man, it would be nice to buy a new home for different reasons, but roadblock pops up in their mind. But we have a 3.6% interest rate, and everybody that I've seen posting online says 6.5 is the new interest rate. Doesn't seem like a good trade. And then they stop at that. because they don't have anybody guiding them through the actual decision process of what it looks like, right? Or the logistics. So this is a very simple where I had Claude build an app where I said, well, let me just have them fill out a few different things. And we call it the homeowner opportunity map, which maps out the decision for them. So when they answer a few of these questions, so what matters most in the next chapter for you? If they were to say that building long-term wealth is important to them, you'll see that it changed from selling and repositioning their equity to they should buy their next property and rent their existing property, right? Because one of the things I like showing clients is what happens if they turn their 2.5 or 3.5% interest rate home into a rental that they bought in 2020 or 2018. What's likely going to be the cash flow state of that property today? Negative or positive? Positive. Roughly maybe $700 to $1,200 a month. What can that cash flow be used for? Yep, it can offset their next home, right? So if they're going buying another property and they already see interest rates going to be higher on the new home, why not show them the path of how their current home will actually offset some of the mortgage of that new property? So instead of it being a $2,000 increase, it's a $900 increase or $1,200 increase, right? And part of this decision as well is asking them what they're comfortable with. So also, would they like to be a landlord? If they say yes, then that helps with cash flow because they don't have to have property management fees. And the calculator takes all of that into account. So if they say that they want to be hands-on, then it increases the amount of cash flow that they're going to get on this property. Does that make sense? So this is an example of an app where it was created, and maybe this was probably a little bit longer because I had to add things that I wanted. I was like, oh, this would be another cool feature. And the way it does it within Claude, and Cam, if you want to chime in too, I know, oh, he snuck out. Okay. So this is an example of what it looks like. All you need to ask is write this down. Build an HTML interactive asset. Okay. Nope. You can do it in just a normal chat. So, yep, you can do it in a normal chat window. Oh, yeah, build an HTML interactive app. Once you build it, it saves this version under, at least if you're using Claude, it saves it under artifacts. So you can go look at all of your artifacts or all of your mini apps. And then on ChatGPT, it saves it, they call it sites, I believe now. Let's see. They just upgraded it. So it is underneath sites. So right underneath new chat, I know it's a little small here, but that's where they host them. And you can share a link directly. So two things you can do with these apps is you can embed them on your website. So this one's embedded on my website because it just gives you the raw HTML that you just literally go and paste it on your website. Or you get this little up here, this little publish artifact button that you can click and copy the link, and you literally can just text this to a client. Okay, so you can actually customize the solution for a client as well at any time. So you don't have to host it on your website. Does that make sense? And then it preserves because it has my calendar link in here. So when they click on that, it will take them to my calendar to book a strategy session if they want to go deeper. And if they click this print or save the PDF version, I want it to be a lead capture. So I'll say, great, email me a copy and save the PDF. When they do that, their information goes into my CRM and tags that they used this tool. So what does that tell me? Go focus on them, right? And I get to see all the details that they put in as well, that build long-term wealth or simplifying their life. And this is how I consult clients is like, if they're saying, hey, I want a lower monthly payment. Well, now is probably not the best time to try and buy a home unless you are looking at downsizing, right? And so I've told the calculator to just kind of think of how I think. So I recommend to those clients, well, it probably is a better decision potentially to stay in home, right? Based off of their answers. Does that make sense? Another example is Clay in here? Clay mentioned that he was buying or making an offer on a property, and he was and it was a seller financing deal. And he was trying to portray to the listing agent that the seller financing deal was a great deal for their clients. And the listing agent, and how many of you have done the seller financing before? Okay. For agents who have not done it, it can be a scary topic because there's a lot of what ifs and nuances to it, right? And so one thing that can be easier, especially in this calculator was optimized more for if I'm guiding a seller and telling them why seller financing could be a good option, is being able to show them side by side what the net proceed difference is over a 5-year balloon payment structure, right? And them being essentially the bank for that property. So that's another example of a mini app that you can create, and just became a little calculator that I can utilize with my clients. Okay.
Are these apps or are these online that you go to? Like go to?
So two ways. You can host it on Claude by just clicking share, and it just publishes this artifact.
Yeah.
In that case, it's hosted by Claude. You don't have the lead capture mechanism if you do that. If you take it over to your personal website, so like this is mine, for example. All that I have to do within Claude is click on copy, and I go to a new blank page on the website, and it lets me just go ahead and paste the code in here. I'm not a coder. I have no clue what this stuff says, but I can just go ahead and select all, paste it in there, and it now is embedded on my website. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's where it becomes owned on your actual website. Yeah, Terry. You can use KW command if you use that website. I use Squarespace. There's different options out there. But yeah, you can use whatever you'd like, but you do have your KW website and you can go embed on there as well. Yeah. Okay. Switching gears for a second. So let's look at outside of apps, let's look at just PDF guides. So playbooks, right? How many of you have a home buyer guide, a seller's guide, or an investor's playbook, some sort of asset that you're giving out as a resource, right? Those are something where it's so easy today to be able to build those. And then also on the design side, so Claude has rolled this out over the last couple of months. I know it's hard to see in the bottom left corner, it says design. And when you click on that, it opens up this completely different window, which is a design tool, where it's basically like you have a custom designer in your pocket. And on here, you can go ahead and save your logos, your brand colors, all the stuff that's important to your brand as a design. So when you come back in here, I can say I create a PDF for my real estate clients, use the KW Westfield logo, and the design aesthetic is primarily white and black with subtle KW red accents. Is that an intense prompt or very simple? Okay. So we do not have to think through, or over worry about prompts in how we use AI today. It has become so smart over the last 6 months where you can be very simple with the input, but it will provide a high quality output. So we'll watch what this spits out, but Claude Design can create PDFs, it can create websites, it can create app mockups, whatever you'd like. And so this is a great asset as well. Presentations. So any of that stuff that comes down to design work, social media posts, imagery, you kind of want more like ChatGPT or Canva, but Claude is great at the more editorial style kind of design work. Okay. So we'll come back and see what it spits out in a moment. This is what I would recommend is we want to get to a place where you have an asset library, okay? If you build a library of value once, all you need to do is sometimes occasionally refresh the content. But for the most part, when you're having a conversation with a client, you're then able to reach out and say, hey, I know XYZ was important to you. This is something that I found that could be helpful, and send over whatever that asset was in your library that was helpful, right? So these are more lead magnets or simple things that you can either use on social media, you can use in your email newsletters as free deliverables that ultimately get your clients to raise their hand, which is the goal, right? You can do this in a few different ways, but the two easiest ways is one, post them for free on Facebook or social media, and just say, hey, this is a free guide that's helpful for investors, people who I've had a lot of my friends and family members curious about how they can start building wealth through owning real estate. And so I put together a simple playbook that's free to really help you on your journey. You can download it today, right? Just give it out for free. Now, obviously, you want to be able to track who downloaded that. And so make sure that you have it go to a landing page or somewhere where, again, they have to give their email and phone number to be able to download it, right? And then another option is with email, right? Your email assets should show who clicks on those resources. So if you have a 7 steps to selling your home, right, or a mortgage hacks playbook, like what it does is shows you what people are interested in. So simply your market update once a month, attaching 2 or 3 of these assets, and just every month rotating through what assets are being shared will get more leads coming in to your business. Does that make sense? But it also just gives more value. Okay. So all of these, if you build a library, which you can do on Google Docs, this is built on Notion, the goal would be to be able to go to any of these and say, okay, where's my investor's guide, right? And having that template ready to go where you can send it to any clients on demand. Okay. What's standing out to you? What are some of the ahas the last 15 minutes? Dean.
What is the first step? It's almost like
Yep. Yep. Great. The first step is coming on here, the spreadsheet, and simply asking what is installed already. Okay. So each of these tabs down at the bottom, for example, if you were to say your home valuation offer, do you have a home valuation offer? If so, then you can go ahead and either mark it as active, or I need to install that. That's my top priority next. That's the bottleneck that I want to fix, right? So first do an inventory of where you're at right now and come back to this command center and see where you're at. I have 1 of 8 active in my business, right? And simply just get a current map of where you're at, but then set a goal for any of the installing is like, okay, by when do you want to have these active in your business? So my goal this quarter is to add 2 more systems that are active in my business, right? And with any of these, follow the checklist to get them set up. So first, do you have 2 event windows blocked on your calendar for the year? Like pre-program those in advance. Here's the fastest way to get into action is make a commitment to other people. Like tell people there's an event coming on a certain date and you'll figure out all the details in between. Does that make sense? And so that's what this checklist is set up for, is get into action and simply just follow the simple, process. Do you have your messaging ready? And then again, you have a recurring checklist. So that's before you actually run the event. What are the things I need to do right before the event, right? This one is a little bit different. And so you'll find up here at the top, there's a master client checklist because client events do have more steps in them. So for example, I've just put some examples in here. So movie night, a water park event, photos with Santa, education event. And so any of these that you click on, you'll see the checklist and then the timeline. When you change the date, it will tell you basically when you should go and do this task, and you just mark them as complete or in progress. And it keeps track of those. You're 4% ready for this event that's going on. Does that make sense? So client events is a little bit more in depth, but this is the very simple path, is just saying, where am I at today? Which value touch points do I have installed? This is actually going to get you to 48 touch points per year. So it's having, your quarterly calls, having a market update email, but then sprinkling in additional touch points throughout the course of the year to get to 48 touch points of value. Okay. The second step that I would take is build a library of value. So do I have assets where I can go ahead and rinse and repeat and use those? For example, Do I have a first-time buyer's guide? Raise your hand again high if you have a first-time home buyer's guide or playbook, whatever you want to call it. Raise your hand high. Okay, look around the room really quick. Like 10 people. Let me ask the question. If we were to say you're going to spend all of your energy for the next 2 hours putting a playbook, do you think you could do it in 2 hours? Okay. Now, if we look at all assets, let's call them 12 to 14 of these, we're talking maybe 24 hours. How many of you work more than 24 hours a week? Okay. Right? Now, I'm not telling you that you have to get them all knocked out in a week, but the reality is you could if you wanted to. And we have to again go back to the constraint. If your constraint is I want more business in my pipeline, I want more income, your constraint is that you don't have enough valuable assets that are generating leads. So this should be the constraint that we focus on. That makes sense? My recommendation would be even if you just do 2 hours a week, you will make meaningful progress in your business. 2 hours a week means that over roughly half a year, 6 months, you will have all these assets built in your business. Okay, so that's the non-overwhelming route, is just commit to 2 hours a week. So I see Marilee, it looks like a few people are putting this on their calendar, hopefully, is what you're doing, right? Is block this on your calendar. Is value creation time. Something like that is what I would call on your calendar. And go and build out these assets that you can then deliver as value to clients. So your PDFs, your calculators, your interactive apps, whatever it might be. Does anybody have some ideas of apps or things that came into their mind of like, oh, I would go create this for clients. That'd be really cool and helpful.
Yeah, I really like the seller financing one, because I've been in that situation. Oh, I'm just not getting it, like, it's such a great deal, you know? But just like you said, like, this is a great way to explain something to the listing agent and to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And sometimes spreadsheets are good, but sometimes they can be overwhelming for different brains. So that's where sometimes a visual is a little bit more helpful for them, for sure. Yeah.
Maybe says in what builders have, but we're not, but
Yes.
showing updates and have it be a place where they can only find it there.
Yeah.
Maybe not have all the access to the builder, but all the access to the.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, that could be a monthly recurring play, right? Is you can post that on social media as, hey, I've gone and done some recon on all the builder incentives that are out there, and I've compiled them for people who are in my network. So if you want access to that list, I update it every month or refresh it every quarter, whatever you want to do. Go ahead and drop your email or send me your email and I'll give you access, right? Which Selena's gone, but we have the Builder Expo or the Real Estate Expo coming up in two months. That'd be a great place to go get that recon of information, right? And that could be a deliverable that you're giving to clients. Who's going to take advantage of that? People who are thinking about buying a new build the next couple of years, right? And you can program that in your messaging. If you thought about buying a new home in the next couple of years, there's a lot of builders that are offering incentives. And I've put a list together. Right? That's a great one. Courtney?
So good. Because right now, in rising rate climates like we seem to be in, it's really nice to be able to offer people their incentives, like, you know, the rate incentives that some builders are offering are lowering payments by $600 to $800 a month.
Yeah.
That's huge. So that can make the difference for a home buyer, whether they can afford it. So that's awesome. The second thing I was going to say, like, I work with several first-time home buyers who are trying to house hack. So having a calculator that shows them lots of they can afford more house than they think, they're being smart about the house hack.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely. Yeah. And that's where too, like, we can have options that we're giving them, right? Based on what your goals are. This is how, you know, a house hack might work for you, right? Painting the picture of what's possible.
Testimonial of the last 4 months, most of my clients have had, even the experienced buyers, sellers. Do you have a simple checklist I follow at the close day? First time I did it, I just passed a lot. I put in, here's the information, create something. I was expecting a Word doc, then created a simple PWA, HTML app. like, oh, sweet, this is awesome. And so then I've done it ever since then, and it took me 7 minutes.
Yeah.
And every single time I ask clients, hey, tell me, how do you like this? Because I love it. I'm thinking of making it like an actual thing that I do for all of my clients, a real app kind of thing. Like, we love this. It's interactive. It's not a boring piece of paper that they have to print off. It's great.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, that sparks my thought on going back to the Claude really quick. So this is what it just built as we've been talking. Okay. So a few minutes and it spit out this first time home buyer's guide. Zoom up here. And then if I export that, it prints it out in a PDF format. How long would that have taken you to actually build in Canva? Right. It made me think, though, this is another one. I had a client, similar situation. Maybe. Yeah, the seller's guide. Because I do base it off of the client, and I was dealing with an older couple where it made sense for us to print something because like we want to know what we should do, all the things to prepare our home, right? And so I just had Claude cook up this little PDF that had a checklist for them, made it very easy to just know what they should do to prepare their home for listing. And so all of those assets, again, 2 hours a week, will start building meaningful progress. Once you get to a certain stage, you have all the assets. Now it's just upkeep, which is like maybe once a quarter, you're doing a refresh on stuff. But it makes everything else so much easier in your business. Okay, Rob?
Did you change the design on that? That looked like thoughts, but.
Yeah, you can change it. Yeah, and you can,
Change that?
no, this is out of the box. But I've told it my fonts and stuff like that up front. So the Claude design, you pre-program and tell it what fonts you want to use and all that stuff so that all of the assets come out the way you want it. So here's what we're going to do, and then we'll break to lunch, is we've got a little QR code. We love your feedback. We want your help. We want to hear success stories. We have a cool thing coming up soon, and we want to feature agents in our office in your success story being with KW Westfield. Many of you chose to partner with us for a given reason. We'd love to hear what that is. Many of you have had transformation happen in your business over the last 1 to 10 years as you've been with us. We'd love to hear that as well. And that is the gate to getting access to that value delivery spreadsheet. So anybody who fills out that survey, you'll instantly get access to that spreadsheet. That includes the client event spreadsheet as well. So you get both of those assets that are now yours. You can go tweak them, customize them. Basically, we built the 36 touch outline for you. You now just have to go and install it in your business, right? But that will be a little resource as we get feedback. We appreciate it. And so grateful to be in business with you. For More Club, just a little heads up. More Club members, those on the wall, you know who you are. We have David Voorhees here who's flown in from KW International. He'll be here with us at 2 p.m. today. So be back in this room. I know we've got Solo Club, but after that, stick around and we'll roll right into David Voorhees' conversation. Okay. Nobody, anything else? Awesome. Okay. Have a great week. Thanks.